On today's episode of the CLS Experience, we have a delightful treat. She's an award-winning serial entrepreneur and business powerhouse. She's a tech CEO, VIP partner at Entrepreneur, and a badass angel investor who helps grow companies from zero to $1 billion in sales. She went from being broke and unemployed to starting, then selling her first company for a very hefty price and becoming a multi-millionaire by the time she was 30 years young. She's been named Entrepreneur of the Year and is the best-selling author of the outstanding book, The Execution Factor. She's just an overall juggernaut in all facets of life and a phenomenal human being. Please welcome the trailblazing Kim Perell. How you doing?
Thanks, Craig. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm so excited for this too, as we were saying before we went on air. I take great pride in the intros. Did I do good by you?
You did great. I love your voice. It's so good.
So New York, right?
Yeah, I like it. It's got a little, you stop and listen,
Yeah.
right?
I appreciate you saying that. And also, another thing I was saying to you before we went on air is I'm such a fan of yours personally. I know that you do a lot of these, as do I. You have my word. We will keep this different. It'll be fresh. We're going to have a ton of fun, and we'll absolutely manufacture magic together here today.
I love it. I'm ready. I'm ready.
Okay. The audience loves to get a little bit of idea of the background and so forth. And I know your story is very documented. Before we get into that, we're going to get a little weird. You ready to get weird?
Yeah, let's do it.
Kim, what is your superpower?
I mean, people.
Ooh, love that. Very decisive. I love that. What's something interesting about you that a lot of people might not know?
I can walk on stilts and I'm good on a unicycle.
Really?
Yeah.
That's fun. Did you work at the circus?
I mean, I was trying when I was a kid. I never got that far, but it's never too late. It's never too late.
That's true. And no one would bet against you. Just because you mentioned that, I'm just curious. Have you seen the film The Greatest Showman?
I love it.
Oh, unbelievable.
I watched it. I came back from LA like 2 weeks ago. And my husband thinks I'm nuts. I actually watched it like 3 times flying back.
I could do the same thing. People always ask me, like, how do you watch the same movie over? I love it.
And, yeah, but I watched it like at the same time.
Really?
Yes.
There's so many good messages in that movie. Some that I know that you would love too. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I agree.
100%. Kim,
I get my circus. My love of the circus is coming through, right?
That's why I asked you.
It's true. Like once a lover, always.
That's it. Kim, describe yourself in 3 words.
Positive, energetic, and fun-loving.
Ooh, love that. And it's very obvious, especially the energetic one. You've done so many things throughout your journey. Obviously, you're just getting warmed up, but you've had so many highs, of course, some lows too. At this point right now, what makes you feel most alive?
I love when I can positively influence or help someone. I truly do. Like I'm an entrepreneur. I know how hard it is to, create something from nothing. So I really just, feel most energized when I can help someone like pursue their dream or live out their dream.
Yeah. And you do that every single day, especially with the social media and so forth. Your posts are so inspirational. But one of the reasons why I think they're so effective is because they're so relatable. Like people look at you and it's like what she's saying, like it makes sense. It resonates. If she could do it, other people could do it too. Or at least, they believe they can, which is so important.
Yeah, like I've been there, right? So that's the point. And it's lonely and it's like, but you need someone, you don't want to do it alone. So it's like, how do we help, relate to some of the experiences and like my feelings and I'm sure other people are having right now too, right?
That's it. And another thing I just want to say, a little off topic, is something that you do so well is you're very vulnerable and transparent on social media. So it helps the audience connect with you, I think.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. It's like, hey, it's hard, right?
It is. It is.
And I got 4 kids, so it's like insanely hard. Like, oh my gosh.
I could, to be honest with you, when I was, because number one, I'm a fan, so I do my homework, but obviously I wanted to show you the respect you deserve today because preparation breeds confidence. And when I heard you had 4 kids, I was like, but you're so young, but you have 2 sets of twins, correct?
Yeah, very efficient. Yes.
Yeah. So that makes sense.
Yes, but I'm a twin, so it's like I was kind of, when I was looking, originally, and we've had a lot of history of, trying to get to where we are, but science played a big part in the first round. And because I really wanted twins, being a twin. And then the second round, I was like, okay, you only need to do that once.
Yeah.
So actually, then that was just like nature intervened.
Understood. Do you have an identical twin?
I don't. I have a fraternal twin, but my boys that are 2, they're identical. Like you can't even tell them apart. I don't
Really?
even. Our kids, our 7-year-olds are like, we don't know which one they are.
That's
like,
great.
they're 2. Like at this point, maybe.
Yeah, I love that. You're so busy, you have so many things going on. Some of the entrepreneurs that I speak to in that interview and so forth, sometimes they have trouble answering this question, but I feel like you might be different because you always look like you're having so much fun. When was the last time you had an unbelievable belly laugh, Kim?
Oh my gosh. Honestly, I laugh all the time because the kids are funny, right? They're so funny. I'm just like, I was actually just telling my husband earlier, one of them said something so funny, and I just was like, but yeah, it was probably in the last 24 hours. I mean, they're just so ridiculous. Right now, they're at a point where all they do is try to like escape from their cribs, they're so cute, and they're like, it's too much. But yeah, so I think probably all the time. It's insane over here.
That's what it's all about. And I don't have a kid yet, someday, God willing, but my brother, my best friend in the world, is a little bit older than me. He just had a kid. So I have a baby nephew who just turned 1. And it's the cutest thing ever. Now he's starting to get that personality and move around and stuff. He makes these facial expressions. It's adorable. It's hilarious.
Yeah, it's so funny. Yes, I would say.
Kim, what is your definition of success?
I mean, really, I've spent a lot of time thinking about that because I think at different points in your life, you view success differently, I guess. Like at one point, I just want to make $1 million, and that was like all I could think about. I was like, I should make $1 million. My life will be so amazing, right? Which is true. So don't get me wrong. But like right now, my definition is really like how many lives I can positively touch and impact. And like I really believe like if I could just pay it forward, because I've had so many people like bet on me and like support me. And I just feel it's been so key to my success that I just want to make sure I'm paying that forward.
That's terrific. And again, I've interviewed so many like big juggernauts, and they usually have like a set answer for what their definition of success is. But I never heard someone articulate it the way you did. And it just sitting here being present, it makes so much sense. Like in different seasons of life, what you consider to be success might be different things. Love that you said that. It's so true.
Yeah.
We're going to jump around a little bit. The audience loves to get a little bit idea of the background. You grew up in Portland, right? In Oregon?
Yeah, Oregon. I love your little accent. So
cute. Isn't that obvious?
Yeah, Oregon. Yes, I grew up in Oregon.
Oregon.
Yes, don't worry. Hey, it's like potato. It's all good. It's just cute to hear it.
Yeah.
So grew up in Oregon, in Portland. It's so beautiful. Have you been?
No, I haven't.
Oh, you should make a trip. It's so cute. It's like amazing. You would love it.
I would love to run a marathon in that city because I'm into those recently, and that seems like a cool city or a cool place to do one.
Oh, for sure. It's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
You still have a lot of family there?
I do. So my whole family still lives there, except for my sister lives actually in Hawaii. But my mom, my dad, my brother, they all still live there. They love it. It's like Pacific Northwest. If anyone's from the Pacific Northwest, it's like, it's just its own grounding. It's a grounding place to be, I think.
Yeah. And Hawaii has a special place in my heart too. You just mentioned that. And we'll get into this in a little bit. But I know Hawaii is a special place for you as well.
It does. Hey, I think, you know what? There's so many great places. We were talking about that. It's just wherever you are is great. It's how you make it, right?
100%. The grass is greenest where you water it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Your parents are both entrepreneurs when you were growing up. And I know you had so many different jobs, and you just brought something to my attention a little bit early in the conversation in regards to the circus and stuff like that. But how many different jobs did you have when you were younger?
Oh my gosh. I had so many. Like I would do anything to, like I was telling someone earlier, I used to sell pepperoni like door to door. I mean, that's like a whole nother like layer of a job.
Pepperoni without the pizza?
Like pepperoni sticks. You know,
Wow.
like they sell it like Little League. I thought it was like, let's just do this all year round.
Yeah. But that
Thanks.
also that taught you a little something, having so many different jobs. How come you had so many? The entrepreneurial spirit?
You know what? We didn't have a lot growing up, and like anything I wanted, I had to find the money to get. So if we wanted a field trip, whatever it is I wanted, I had to hustle to work for. And I saw it my parents, and they're like, "Hey, if you want it, find out how to get it." Right. So I guess if I sell pepperoni door to door, I had cans. In Oregon, you get 5, 10 cents, which is a lot. Wheel them up to the Safeway, and get
Yeah.
my cash back. But I was always looking for how to make extra money on the side.
But that gives you experience. You also sold suits?
I did. So then it worked. Then it went like clothing because you can only do so much as a kid, and then eventually you're able to actually work. I would like flip pizza at like Round Table Pizza. I was an amazing pizza maker. Then I worked at the Gap for a while, like folding clothes. I'm excellent at folding. So like I am so good at if anyone that's worked in, clothing and had to sell or, there's little boards that you have to put in and then you put them perfectly. I can fold so well. And then I sold suits, and that was a whole nother thing. Usually what I was doing was somewhere and selling something, I guess.
Understood. And I love it. And that definitely shaped you and obviously gave you a ton of experience. From seeing your parents, both entrepreneurs, anyone knows, being an entrepreneur, or at least they should know it's not like this. It's the ups and downs and so forth. It's one of the reasons why we love it. But you, like being so young and as a sponge and seeing them go through it, did that make you gravitate towards it or maybe the opposite at a young age?
No, it was definitely the opposite. Like having lived it, you don't want to live it again.
Yeah,
I'm like,
because it's
there's too much
unpredictable.
roller coaster for me, right? I'm like, I'm gonna get a real steady job that has like, you know, benefits and a steady paycheck or whatever, like a normal job. And honestly, that was like my intention was just to get a normal job and not have the ups and downs that I saw them experience. Because it was so hard. It was like hard on me and my brother and sister. It was hard on them. And it was just a constant roller coaster.
Yeah, I understand that completely. And then fast forward a little bit. Obviously, I could talk to you all day, but I want to appreciate your time and so forth. Eventually, after college, you got, and I quote, a real job, right?
I got a real job for an internet company. So it was like, listen, they'd raised some money. It was like up and coming. It was right when the .com went just, taken off, and it felt secure. They raised 120 million after, throughout the time I was there. So it felt like a real job.
That's nothing to sneeze at.
No, that's like, that should help. I should
Yeah.
have employment for life, right? Which, yeah, that didn't work out for me. So sadly, that company went bankrupt, and I was had to lay off all of my friends, and then I was fired. And honestly, it was like hitting rock bottom. And what do you do when you hit rock bottom? And no one wants to talk to you because they're all mad that they lost their job, and you don't have any money, and your track record isn't exactly stellar. Yeah, and then what do you do? Like I had a real job, so then what was I gonna do? I'm like, but I tried that didn't work out. So then I thought I'd take the jump into entrepreneurship.
Yeah, because ultimately you can lose a real job, right? What society tells you is a real job. So you might as well take a shot at something that's, not a real job, but us it has a bigger upside. I want to ask you something that's a little bit of a weird question. I'm just curious, like, what was tougher for you at the time, being let go and obviously not having money and dealing with it from a personal level, or all the friends and so forth that no longer had the money, so that you kind of had to deal with that as well?
I mean, personally, it was just everyone else. Like,
Yeah.
I guess, that was like just so hard because I'd sold them this dream, right? I'm like, we're all gonna be .com millionaires. Come work for me. This is the future. And then having to like literally tell them there is no future. We can't give you any separate. Like, it's just such a emotional time. And honestly, it took so long for anyone to even talk to me again. I'm like, and you're kids, so you don't know. Like, there's not a normalcy of like, oh, okay, that actually happens. People were counting on me, and I think just the disappointment, like I really hurt really
Yeah.
badly. So trying to understand, like, how do you not let that happen? And honestly, I don't know how to not let that happen. It's like if you're gonna swing for the fences, you may lose.
Yeah, it's a tough pill to swallow, especially when there's other people at stake. I totally understand that. So the company was done. Did you also file bankruptcy?
Yeah, the company, because I was working for an internet company. I mean, like the company went bankrupt. I was fired. I didn't know what I was going to do. And I thought, okay, well, I just got a real job. That didn't work out so well. So maybe, kind of like goes back to what I knew. Like I did know entrepreneurship. I knew like how to create something for nothing. I've watched it before. I also knew like there was a lot of risk involved, but I'd already bet on, like something bigger and some, like a whole slew of other people. And like, I just wanted to bet on myself. And if I was going to lose, like I just lose because I couldn't execute or I wasn't, at least then I knew it was my own fault. Like,
Yeah, 100%. And like, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like that time was a bit of a rock bottom for you with all that going on at once. But sometimes, and maybe you can attest to this, that's actually a beautiful place to be because number one, you become battle tested. And then obviously from there, there's really one direction to go. And you made the most important bet anyone can ever make, and that's on themselves.
yeah, it was. And when you hit that point, you're right. Like there's only one way to go when you're at rock bottom. So you got to go up, right? I can't, like I was broke, unemployed, depressed. I didn't even want to get out of bed. Like I didn't have any friends and I didn't, I had no money. So it's like, okay, well, I guess better, good as time as any to try to make a run of it.
Yeah. And I know most of the world that knows you knows what happens next, but for the audience that might not, obviously I want you to dive in with with your grandma and so. But I wanted to ask you, so many people, so many people in the audience, especially, go through a tough break or rock bottom or adversity and stuff like that. It's important to allow the emotions to come, but then obviously sooner than later, it's tactics and strategies. What's the strategy to do next? How long did you give yourself, or maybe not that long, to kind of just live in your emotions and so forth? And then obviously, what do we do next?
Yeah, I think I probably stayed in bed for like a week. And then it was like, I had to figure out how I was going to pay rent or get the hell out of my apartment. Yeah. So it wasn't exact. I probably would have stayed there longer, but I did, like no one was going to put the bill. So I guess I had to get up, right?
Yeah. And I love that you have a sense of humor about it right now because we have to. We have to be able to laugh like at some things happen to life. And obviously, if none of that happened, you wouldn't be where you are today. But you have to be able to laugh at it.
Well, then, there's a great phrase that I like, which is like, likely the worst thing that ever happens to you turns into like the catalyst for the best thing that ever happens to you. So like, if you can look at it like that and say, okay, I mean, and I've had so many things that just, I've been terrible, like personally and in business. And it's just like, you learn from it, you grow from it, you do come out the other side. And, I guess now I've got a lot more. I got a muscle for having training for setbacks for 20 years at this point. So I'm much better at bouncing back, but it takes every time it happens, it takes a part out of you, right?
Of course. Yeah. And I know you've been training for setbacks. I love the way you articulate that because you know what happens pretty much every time there's a big obstacle or adversity, you know that it leads to some sort of growth or something special to happen. This is a little bit weird too, but I have to ask you, do you associate pleasure with these situations or they still suck, but in your heart of hearts on the other side is obviously something epic?
Yeah, no, they still suck. I mean, yeah. And you're like, I just, you're like, how are you getting through? I do know though now, like in my heart of hearts, it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
So that's like the faith comes through, right? Like you build
100%.
faith.
Yeah. Battle tested.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm going to be okay. No matter what happens, I'll be okay. Right. Like, I think knowing that gives you a different lens on life too.
100%. Because then when these things happen, like you're still able to maintain a sense of gratitude. It's not going to be devastating. Like there's life after life, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's like, I just went through what the worst could happen. So like, okay, there's so many, just times that you're like, okay, well, I've been there. So I can do it again.
Yeah. This is so valuable to the audience. And let me know if you know a good surgeon, because you have to surgically remove this smile from my face just talking to you. And I love when you say like training for setbacks. That's unbelievable. How do we get from this moment to the infamous story where you called the one person you could trust the most, your grandma?
Yeah, well, I didn't, my track record wasn't very good, obviously, and I didn't have any money and no one wanted to give me any money. So, I called the one person that I knew there was a possible chance would make a bet on me, which was my grandma. And,
Whose mom? Your mom's or your dad's?
My dad. So she knew. I mean, she's seen my dad for like he paved the way. So when I called her, I was like, hey, I got a brilliant idea for this thing called the internet. She's like, I have no idea what the internet is.
What year was this?
This was like 2003. I mean,
You
like
were-
she had an AOL
you were
account. She's like,
young.
what's the internet? Like what? I mean, she's 80 and she know. I mean, it was an interest, but she honestly didn't care. She's like, listen, I'd bet on you. It doesn't matter what you're doing. Like, I believe in you. And it's like that one person that just believes in you, like without any hesitation, it makes the biggest difference.
Priceless.
Priceless. I
Yeah.
totally agree.
Yeah. And you still had the confidence to, all right, let's do this. Like that was a minor setback. Now it's go time. What was the next move?
The next move was I needed a place to work from and I didn't have any money except for the 10 grand. So I got a one-way ticket to Hawaii where I lived with my boyfriend, now husband, at his place and just set up shop in his kitchen for like the next 3 years, literally. So thank goodness for him because I didn't have anywhere to go.
Which part of Hawaii?
So we went to, do you know Kaneohe?
Oh, okay.
On
No.
Oahu. Oahu. It was beautiful.
I stayed in Oahu.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I
So-
stayed by Turtle Bay.
North Shore. You were North Shore. I was on the other
Yeah.
side. But yes, so beautiful. I love the North Shore.
Do you surf, Kim?
I tried a few times, but no, I kind of left that to him.
Understood. Yeah, but that's a beautiful place to kind of, do I dare say, reinvent yourself at that time. And then obviously you had a lot of success with that company. How did that come to fruition?
I think just going back to business basics. I'd been part of a .com like rocket ship and spending money like it's going out of style, and just going back to like P&L, right? Like business, like let's, don't spend more than you make, like very simple strategies about how to run a company. So, I was determined to just be really smart on, where we're putting money, and obviously like we maxed out all our car, like, it wasn't that it was easy and like we didn't have any money, but every dollar was very wisely spent, because when you're spending your own money and there's like an end to that, like you're very, it wasn't like 120 million. This is 10,000 bucks. I better make every moment of that count, right?
Yeah, I love this. And I know you talk about, you said something like this, relentless determination and blocking out the noise. How key is that?
Oh my gosh. Well, I could not, for me, and I really think about this even in today, right? It's like you only have so much bandwidth and you can only handle so much noise. And trust me, I have 4 kids, so there's a lot of noise, like a lot, right? And so I really value quiet. Every time we get in the car, I'm like, turn off the radio. I need to just sit here in silence. I think we're just really understanding that, and like how much can you really handle? Like how much noise can you really handle? And like being really clear with that, and like using that as, kind of your own compass about like what's important to you, and not stretching yourself too thin. Understanding like when to take a beat, like rest for me is productivity, like the productivity tool, right? Like you're re-energizing yourself to get like in fighting shape, because you are, that's what you're doing every day. You're out there.
Yeah. I could sense your type of personality, pretty good judge of character, like maybe the A type, and so to speak. And obviously now you're in a different situation than you were back then. But I wanted to ask you, when you were getting that company up and running and it started to have some traction, was it challenging for you to delegate?
Oh, so much. I'm the worst. Like I would say, I'm the worst. And but you learn, you won't be like, I wish one thing I would have learned earlier is just to leverage the talents of other people. Like at scale, you can't scale unless you're doing that. Like I'm good at what I'm good at, and I have my own superpowers and other people have theirs. And it's like, how do you find like the ultimate Moneyball team? And I wish earlier on I would have found that, because I think I would have been, A, it's not fun to do it alone. And B, just, I'd been more successful, right? Like early on, just finding that team, I think is really important.
Did you say Moneyball team?
Yeah, right?
Like the movie?
Yes, the Moneyball team.
Unbelievable film.
Unbelievable.
One of my personal favorites, actually. That movie gets me so excited. Just the thought process, how he's playing chess, and just like he's looking at the game or the world, so to speak, from a different perspective than anybody else in the success they had. Billy Bean, right?
Yeah, I love it, right?
Yeah, phenomenal one. Between The Greatest Showman and Moneyball, forget about it. We're on fire with the
And then
movies.
you like add Gladiator and we're like lights out. Trifecta.
Wait, Gladiator is my favorite.
No, it's my favorite.
Are you being serious right now?
Well, I just said it. It's my favorite
I
movie
just
of
did
all time.
I just did a speaking engagement, and I always talk about like modeling and anchoring with the NLP stuff. Someone's like, "Who are you modeling?" I was like, "Gladiator, Russell Crowe from the movie Gladiator." Love it.
I love it. I'm like the biggest
This
fan.
is
I can watch
great.
that 3 times, but it doesn't play it on the plane anymore. So I just
The force is
every
strong with
story.
us. I love this.
I love it. Like love it. One man makes a difference. I love it.
That's it. Well, so how did you get to the end result? Well, you kind of just talked about it. Like you eventually sold that first company, right?
Yep. And I think it's important. Like when I look at, I never built the company to sell it. I built it just to have like a lifestyle I wanted and just be in control of my own destiny. And then one day I was taught, but listen, even being that, once you build it and we had, like the actual company, and you're young, it is stressful and there's uncertainty and there's risk. And then there's that voice saying, hey, like, are you sure it's going to work out? Because you already had to go through and lay off everyone before. You're going to have to do that again if you keep growing. Like there's all that uncertainty, nothing's certain. And so one of my friends had just sold this company. This is like 2007, right before 2008. And the market tanks. He's like, I sold my company. I'm like, oh, it's interesting what you didn't know you were going to do until someone else does. And you're like, oh, well, you sold your company. I'm going to sell mine too. And
Great
it's
idea.
like, why not? But
Yeah.
I think putting yourself in places with people that like you admire and aspire to be like just levels you up, because that wouldn't have been something I would have been thinking about unless someone else did, right?
100%. And like, if we don't like get bits and pieces or attributes from successful people, see what they're up to, what made them successful, so forth, then the joke's on us. 100%. You mentioned the voice in your head, right? Specifically during that example, maybe it was saying to you, like, you remember what happened last time, you let people down, whatever the case may be. What is the tool that you use to kind of combat that voice?
I think you learn over time. I mean, honestly, at that point, I'm like, well, I better sell this as soon as possible because the risk is too great. I mean, hindsight 2020, because the company did very well. But like for me, just reassuring, like the confidence in myself has to be greater than anyone else's doubt in me. And like usually when people are telling me, when I started my company, they thought I'm crazy, the internet's a fad. I mean, just Kim, obviously that didn't work out. No matter what I'm doing, people are always saying I'm crazy. That's kind of the red thread. So now I'm like, if you say I'm crazy, I might be onto something. Crazy is called risk taking, and I'm a risk taker, calculated now. But I think that's not a bad thing, right?
No. You know who's crazy? Walt Disney, P.T. Barnum, Steve Jobs. Like,
Totally, right? Let's get some
I,
elephants.
that's it. I think it's a trait of the greats and the legends. You have to be a little out of your mind. And it's no secret that you are in the best way possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's just a little bit out, like a little one-off, right? If everyone else wants to play soccer, I want to play on stilts. It's like, well, it's our young, right? Like I want to be in the circus. Who knows
Kim,
what anyone else wants to
you
do?
see things differently. That's an edge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
what was the time frame between when you got the loan from your grandma and then you sold the company? Like how many years?
It's almost 6 years.
It's a nice journey right there.
Yeah, it was a journey. Like, listen, I think it was a great journey. But what's important is that like that was just the beginning. So I stayed with the company that I sold to for another 5 years, and then we sold again. So and then I stayed another 5 years, and it's about like the relationships I made along the way. After I sold the first time, again, my core being is to help. So I started investing in other companies, and I started becoming an angel investor because I wanted to be like, what's the 10 grand at that point that I could really just give back and start other companies. And that was, a long time ago now, but looking back, just paying it forward and being like, I'm going to put my money, I'm going to put my mentorship, I'm going to put my advice. Like I'm running companies. I'm a good operational CEO when I've been there, I've seen it. And like, I want to help people skip the line, or at least like some of the challenges that I did.
Yeah. And you said you're an angel investor. I would dare to say you're the angel investor in this space. And I have so much respect for you. So when you look at like which companies to get involved with, like what are your core values? Like what is there any red flags that you wouldn't get involved with? Or what is something that really you gravitate towards when you're investing in other companies?
I think because I'm angel, so that's the earliest stage you probably, you'll get in at. That's also the highest risk, right? So I'm taking the highest risk um, for unproven concepts. And at that point, usually it's usually pre-revenue. So I'm looking at, can this person, like I'm looking at the idea plus the person, right? Like, can they execute whatever their idea is? And do they have like the traits of being a great leader? Because they're going to have to eventually build a team, get investors. Like, so really looking at like, you're betting on the person at that point, I think is a really early on. I mean, there has to be a great idea. So you take that as like table stakes. The idea has to be there, but the person running it is definitely like probably which comes back to my superpower.
Yeah, I love this. So essentially the person and some of their character traits are a little bit more significant than the actual concept of the company, because you can have the greatest concept, but if the person running the ship's not a leader, so to speak, it can only go so far.
Yeah, I think so. Without a doubt, I just think there's character traits and great leaders that I see that are the same no matter, who you're talking, like, and honestly that's the same across age, is the same across time, right?
Yeah. And it goes back to the word that you love, to be able to execute.
Yes, to be able to execute, right?
That's
It makes a difference. It's like everyone's got an idea. Ideas are a dime a dozen. Like, what are you actually doing to make that idea come to life? And that's hard, right?
Yeah. What do you think is more important, the creativity or the work ethic? Or do you need to have a little bit of both? For example, I look at you and I see someone with a maniacal drive, but I also see someone that's very clever and creative.
I think it's hard. I think it's like a balance, I guess. I think the number one trait, I believe, is having, I grew up with this, like that vision, that crystal clear vision of what you want to achieve. And so if you don't have that, no amount of work ethic is going to get you anywhere, because it's like going to a forest without a map. How do you know where you're going, right? You have to actually be crystal clear. When all the noise again happens, you have to be like, I'm drowning it out. And I'm still laser focused, because there's so many distractions today, and there's so many that can take you off your vision, off where you want to go. And making sure just like laser focus on that vision is really important. So
laser focus. That's it. And that's what I see in you. You're involved with over 100 companies now?
Yes, but I mean, let's say 25 have sold. So I'm not involved. About 12 have probably gone under, not involved, but most of them are still going. Like we're going to see some good. I've actually, this year alone, we had a lot of exits. So I think this year's been hot.
Yes, it has.
I know. So I'm excited. And obviously my expertise, really is in technology, in the digital economy. So it's I'm in a great place to be in terms of investments that I've made, obviously, over the last decade.
Yeah, but that's by design. Let's be honest. You put yourself in this position. Looking forward, I know you're very strategic. You started your first company, you sold that. Now you're doing a lot of the angel investing and so forth. What would you like to do for the next 10 years? Well, just continue on with the angel and so forth? Or did you have something else in mind?
No, I started a new company, 100.co. So we are using artificial intelligence and machine learning to create, brands for the next 100 years. Like, there's a lot of brands that have been created that aren't authentic. They aren't obviously using products that I would even put on my children. Like, I want to help create, natively authentic digital brands, and you do that using artificial intelligence. So like on packaging, on price point, on placement, I think you can accelerate the product development process using technology.
Yeah, I could feel your passion about this one.
It's exciting. I'm so excited. We have a couple of brands coming out later this year, and they're going to be big.
I love that. And speaking of passion, again, because I'm such a fan and I was doing my homework, I heard you say something like this: passion. What are you willing to sacrifice? And so many people want to do this, want to do that, whatever it takes, until you tell them what it is that whatever it takes is.
It's so true. I mean, like, passion is a Latin root word of pain or suffering, right? So like, what do you love so much that you're willing to suffer for? And I think that's like what separates the good from the great, right? Because there's a lot of things people love, but they're not willing to go do the hard yard, right? They're like, give up. It's like, I've spent 20 years tirelessly working in pursuit of what I love, right? And if you're willing to do that, you inevitably will be successful.
100%. And then you talk about resilience.
Yeah. I mean, no one will be like, it's interesting, right? Resilience is just getting knocked down 9 times, getting up 10. And I think building your resilience muscle, and it's hard, but like there's, and I talk about a lot, like practice getting rejected, right? Like go ask for a discount at your local coffee shop, or it hurts, like people saying, or ask someone to be your mentor and they're gonna say no, or ask someone on a date. All these things that like kind of hurt, right, when they say no. It's building muscles that like enable you to build some, like to really like double down on what it is you want in life. And I don't, whatever that is. So like I try to talk about like a lot about just building that resilience muscle. And people are like, how do you do that? And it's like, well, put yourself in places that are going to reject you all the time. Like I get rejected all the time.
You're on fire and you can't be stopped. This is unbelievable. Is it true that you once wrote, or maybe often wrote on your mirror, "Get rejected today"?
Yeah, I wrote a lot on my mirror. I truly believed
Likewise.
in the power of visualization, right? So depending on what
Same.
I want to do, I wrote on my mirror, I want to sell my company by this date. And just like for 9 months, it just stood there every day, every night. Like, so usually I have a goal that I'm trying to achieve and I just put it on my bathroom mirror. So every night before I go to bed and every morning when I wake up, it's like, this is what I'm going to do. Right. So right now I'm writing a book. It's like, I want to write a best-selling book, just sits there all day. Like, okay, what am I doing for my book today? Right. Like, how do I ensure like it's got the best content that could possibly be, and make sure that's helping and spreading that. So it's just having that. I think it's like a simplest tool that anyone can do. Grab a post-it note, stick it to your bathroom mirror, write down what you want, and let's go.
Yeah. In my place in Manhattan, I have like inspirational declarations, mantras, vision boards. I have stuff on my mirror everywhere. People think I'm nuts, but like I can't get enough of it. I want to be, that's what I want to be surrounded by. Because like you know what I'm saying? It's addicting.
Yeah. No, it is. Even in my bathroom, like what I said, and then I have like just some similar to what you're saying, like what's your quotes? Like just assume that the universe is conspiring for you. You know what I mean? Like everything's going to work in your favor. I think if you wake up with that mindset, you're like, all right, it's going to be good. No matter what happens, you're like, it's going to be okay. Like this is supposed to happen.
I love it. And I feel the same way. Just going back for a second in regards to resilience, you said something along the lines of this, which really hit home to me. So valuable to the audience. When it comes to resilience and you're trying to take a big shot at life and do something epic, hopefully, something will not 99%, 100% go wrong at some point. Can you stomach that?
Yeah.
It's going to happen.
I guarantee it. Something you will get crushed, right? Like, are you going to be able to handle it? And like, I think knowing that going in and reminding yourself, like, just write down something's going to go wrong, and then just go back and read it, and then you're like, oh, okay, well, I already knew that, so let's keep moving.
For this. Yeah. The only time something's not going to go wrong for someone is if they're just coasting and not really taking a shot at life. Would you agree?
You know what?
But even then, something will go wrong.
If you're not moving forward, you're kind of moving backwards. So
Yeah.
Yes, but I think like the world's something you don't know, but something's wrong. And if you're just coasting, something's wrong going. Something's working against you. You just don't know it yet.
Yeah, 100%. And also, you said something like this, like when you're about to step into something with intent, you ask yourself, like, can you live with the worst case scenario, whatever that might be? It kind of like mentally prepares you, like, if God forbid everything goes wrong, this is where we'll be. So it's not really surprises.
Right. I love the worst case scenario. So like, I remember buying my first house and I was like, hey, and I called my dad and I'm like, hey, Dad, I don't know if I don't know the company and I don't know if I can afford it. He's like, what's the worst that can happen, Kimmy? And I'm like, I don't know. I've never bought a house. What's the worst that can happen? And he's like, oh, you just give it back to the bank. And I'm like, like naively I'm like, oh, okay, well, I just buy it. Now, again, this is for my father, who obviously didn't have that much success and had some roller coasters. So he's like, I've had to do that before. No worries. But like a normal, I'm like, anyway, but it is like taking the risk with confidence and being like, okay, the worst thing that can happen is I just give it back. I mean, obviously it's a bit more complicated than that, but I like the simplicity of which he told me to just do it anyway.
I get it. Trust me. You think so big that it's weird. And I mean that as the biggest compliment ever. Because I'm the same way with my team. Like even when I launched a podcast, I had a big strategy, certain amount of downloads I wanted to achieve, and we hit it, but my team thought I was out of my mind. Were you always like, it seems like you were, because even like from the beginning, is that something that you can teach someone, or do you kind of have to have that it factor just by like having very big paradigms, thinking very big?
And honestly, I think, I love to read, and that's why I write books. Like, I read so much growing up. I just think it's like who you surround yourself. Like, are you reading big thinkers? Like, are you talking small gossip? Like, what are you doing with your time? Right. I think anyone can learn to think big and think out of the box, but like, where are they choosing to put their time and like intention? So like growing up, I just read so much, and it was all usually about big thinkers, like thinking how they're going to change the world, how they're going to make a difference. And it's inspiring. So I think for me, it was about more, obviously I had my father, but it was too much, right? I'm like, okay, I'm gonna try. So no, he's amazing, but like too much for like it'd be better to watch on an outside as opposed to living it.
Yeah, you do so much sharpening the axe, which I can relate to so much. I have so many journals on my dining room table, just open from different things. Even the movies that we both share in common that we both love, there's a common tone, right? There's an inspirational story involved. So it's no secret that you've been sharpening the axe for years. You talk about mentorship often. I don't have any regrets because I believe, I left Wall Street in the pandemic. It was a great opportunity for me. I used that time to pivot and go into what I love most, help revamping people's mindsets and so forth. So grateful, having a ton of success. We're just getting started. The only regret I could think of, Kim, is that earlier on in life, I didn't have a mentor or ask for support. Maybe I had a little bit too much of an ego. I thought I could do everything myself. I know I can't. And it's something I would suggest to anyone coming up as early as they can is to have a mentorship. How important is it for you? And at what age did you start having them?
Oh my gosh. I've been really lucky. Had so many great mentors, and actually usually in different times of my life, right? For different like phases or seasons of my life and different parts of my business. Like when I was a small business, then it was a big business, then I wanted to sell and I wanted to, buy. I don't know. I just feel like I've had these amazing mentors, like starting with my own family. Like my grandfather was a great mentor for me. He taught me all these incredible like business, lessons, which then I used. But I think like there's nothing better than having a great mentor. I really like, and you see, it's almost like, again, the people you're surrounding yourself, usually a mentor can see things and has had experience that you don't have. So I really value that personally. If someone can share their experience, because I don't want to reinvent the wheel. Like if you can get a mentor that's like, hey, Kim, I've seen this, trust me, don't do it. I'm like, I have no ego in the game. So to your point, okay, I would defer to them because I trust them, right?
Yeah. And you said earlier, like in regards to Angel, you said something like helping people cut the line, so to speak. And I think of that when you use the word mentorship, like they have something that we don't have in certain areas, experience. That's priceless. We're not going to be here forever. Like we got to take advantage of that.
Yeah, I would agree. And like finding, someone asked me, well, you're just starting out, how do you find one? It's like, well, let's just think if you want to start, like it can be so simple. Like say you want to start a business. Well, just go down your local street and ask the business owner how he got started. Like some of this stuff is so simple and we try to make it too complicated. Like it's just not.
That's right. Yeah. The first book.
And if they say no, find a new one. Like don't
it.
stop just because someone says no. I mean, it's like
No.
they're not the right mentor for you anyway. Find someone that actually like really cares about you.
You try to treat it like a video game. You get 100 lives. Just go to the next. And also, the best part is like you just said, like in any area, whether you're trying to do something with fitness or start a business or a relationship, anything,
totally.
Someone has experience in that area.
Totally, I could not agree more.
Your first book, I've just started. I'm reading it now. I'm already loving it. How long were you working on that, or maybe not that long? And then also tell us what we can expect for the sequel, the second book.
Yeah. So the first book, I actually wanted to write, I would speak for my company and other companies just about like the traits I saw in successful individuals. And so I wrote a book, and it took me 5 years just to like actually get it on paper and get it out. And, I had to think about it and rewrite it, but just really honing in. And so it was fun. So that was about 3 years ago. Then, and the book is really about like what skills drive success. So it's really practical advice given like everything I've seen, all the companies I've worked with, thousands of individuals, executives, entrepreneurs, like here's the 5 skills that I think drive success. And if you want to be successful, like this is what you need to master, right? No, it's like a wheel. So if you're missing part of the wheel, it's not going to go so well. If you're missing 2 parts of the wheels, we're really in trouble, right? So I felt it was something that just I was called to write. And then once I wrote it, people were like, I love the book, but they were even if I gave a blueprint of how to be successful, they were too scared to make that jump to the other side. And so I was like, okay, well, now I got to write a book just to help you make the jump from where you are to read the second book to how to do it, right? So really like, okay, so my new book that's coming out in November is really about how to take that jump. And we talk about the 3 types of jumps that you would be taking. And honestly, they reflect, my own jumps. And it's like looking at like a survival jump, like you're bankrupt, you have some huge, terrible, life-changing event. What are you going to do? Or an opportunity jump. Like I see a business I want to start. So it's like from an opportunity, but to your point, like the stagnant jump, you're just sitting there coasting through life, like, but you're bored or you're unhappy with your job or unhappy with your life. Like, how do you get out of that? That's like quicksand. You're just like slowly like dripping in, right? So yeah, really trying to help people like identify where am I at and give them a really tactical plan of how to get to the other side. Because it was interesting having now written 2 books, one needed the help of the other one.
I love it. And our mutual friend Meltzer, I have a weekly show with him. I call him the articulate alligator, but to be honest with you, I think you got him when it comes to being articulate. Is the first book on Audible, Kim?
Yeah, it is.
Is it your voice?
No, but the second book
What?
I'm taping next week. It was like before Audible went crazy. I don't know. I should probably go back and re-record, but I'm actually recording the second one on Audible next week.
Good. And it comes out in the fall?
It comes out in the fall, November 2nd, but you can pre-order on Amazon. So please do. It's a game changer. And I really believe like jumping will be a movement.
Yeah, I love all this. And if anyone, like for the CLS audience, should you check out what Kim's got going on? No brainer. She's already done this 100 times. And we're going to wrap up, but there's just 2 more things I want to touch base with you on. You talk often about like not being a victim, right? And I think this is so important because so many people go through heart-wrenching moments in life, maybe business, bankruptcy, anything, relationship, but you can't have that victim mentality. You just have to take some sort of ownership and accountability because there's always a choice, even when you're at rock bottom, right?
Yeah. I mean, you have a choice. And I think like, I was saying this earlier this week, it's like, be the CEO of your own life. Fire people, hire people, promote people. Like you make the decision on what you want to do in your life. You may not be able to control everything else, but you do have the ability to choose what you can control.
Yeah. And also there's so much opportunity out there, right? Like if you don't ASK, you don't GET, right?
I agree. Totally agree. I mean, I'm like, yes.
Yeah,
Let's
I love
go.
it. I may or may not name this episode The Gladiator, just saying.
I love it. I love The Gladiator. I'm such a fan.
I know the audience is already obsessed with you in 2 seconds. Where can I hang out with you? Where can I support you? Obviously, you mentioned where they can get the books. Where do you hang out the most?
Oh my gosh. Well, please, I have a success test that you can take for free at kimperell.com, which is awesome. It will tell you what trait drives your success. You can follow me on any social channel. I'm there hanging out, looking for people, like-minded people that want to, continue to make positive influence in the world. And, just would love to continue to connect with all of your listeners.
And the CLS audience is very engaging, so they're probably going to hit you up and comment on your stuff. You don't bite, right?
No, I do not. I like to hug.
I love it. I'm going to ask you one last question because we talked about mentorship and, people always ask me, and it's funny, you may agree with this, like, because I use the world as my playground so much sharper in the action, whether it be the movie Gladiator or Greatest Showman or actual books, talking to you, anything, I get inspiration from so many different places, mentors everywhere. Who's someone that's played specifically such a pivotal role for you in your life in regards to mentorship? Could be a real person or a fictional character.
I have a really good friend, Chris Birch, who's the co-founder of Tory Birch. He just thinks big. And I think he's been a great mentor for my life. And I just feel very blessed, like in terms of just the way he sees the world is very inspirational.
From a different perspective, I imagine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. From a different perspective.
You've seen the movie The Matrix?
Love it.
Okay. Of course you do. I was having a conversation with someone recently about that. And I was saying like how when I watch that movie, like I almost look at it like, and I think someone said this before, as a documentary. Like when you become unplugged and you just look at everything from a different angle, you're able to see the field, so to speak, in such a different way than most people that are just going like this. Do you kind of get that vibe from that movie?
Oh yeah. But like, I like to look, like, can you look at the world through different lenses, right? Like I really try to sit in anyone else's shoes and be like, how do they see the world? Because that's what's so interesting. I love people. Like everyone's looking at from their own perspective. That's why like I really want to, listen to people and put myself in their perspective, because they're looking at the world completely different from their own life experiences. So if we just take time to listen, I think, we gain so much knowledge.
Yeah. Did you, I don't want to say lose, but like, did you separate yourself from some friends maybe that you had when you were growing up just because they just see things so differently than you do now? Or you've already surrounded yourself with like-minded people at this point?
I just think most of the people I surround myself now are very like-minded, but I really am grateful for everyone. Like everyone just plays a different role in a different chapter in your life. I'm very much so like there's something I do and it's called a life audit. So like I do not associate with people that are negative, critical, don't believe in like grand ideas,
Oh,
want to gossip. Like all of it's like not my thing at all, because
I'm
it's
like
like I don't
cringing
want
because
to
I know
talk.
the type.
Yeah, like I want to talk about ideas and like life and love and great, like
Epic stuff.
changing things.
Yeah. I'm the same exact way. And again, I could talk to you for the next 10 hours, but I'm going to be respectful for your time. I'm going to tag you on Instagram on some stuff. Obviously, keep you posted when the episode is going to come out. Kim, I had so much fun today. I just want to say to you straight up, you don't shy away from your challenges as they've shaped you. It's something I find so relatable and liberating. I want you to know that you are the definition of resilience, grit, and heart, from ricocheting off rock bottom and transitioning from broke and unemployed to starting and selling your first company and becoming a multi-millionaire by the time you were 30. You're a trailblazer, visionary, and role model to anyone coming up today. I could personally guarantee your best is yet to come. You're someone I admire, I appreciate, and I respect very much. You're a terrific mother and an overall amazing human being. I can't wait to continue to watch you fly. And you have my word, Kim, this will absolutely not be the last time that you and I collaborate.
Oh, thank you so much, Craig. It's been awesome. Looking forward to seeing you at NYC soon, my friend.
Yes, and looking forward to office hours because we're both on the same show coming in the fall as well. And for the audience listening, go pre-order Kim's book now.
Love it.
Thank you so much, Kim. Have an awesome day.
Thanks, sir. You too.
Bye-bye.